Do you know the odds of winning the lottery? I know you might think it's a lot, or it's nearly impossible, but the actual odds are close to 300 million to 1. Let me try my best to put that in perspective for you. Imagine you have to choose a single day from 1 AD to 2667 AD. But that's not all. Suppose you select the right day. Congratulations. Then you're faced with a wall of over 300 identical envelopes. To win the lottery is to not only select the correct day, but it's then to select the correct envelope out of the 300 identical envelopes that are hanging on the wall. This is one of the many ways that you can present numbers in a way that we can understand. Because 300 million means nothing to humans. But taking a shot at a date between 1 and 2667 and then having to pick from 300 envelopes, now we're talking about numbers that matter. That's what we're going to be discussing in this video. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, numbers rule the world. And if you know how to present them in a unique way, in a way that people remember, then you're able to present information that sticks. All this information today is from Making Numbers Count by Heath and Karla Starr. And in this book, it talks about how to make numbers sticky, make them memorable. In this video, I'm going to present 4 different ways to present numbers that people will never forget. Understanding numbers that you know, numbers that you understand, numbers that you feel, and numbers that you see. Those 4 different aspects really do determine whether your point gets across or you're completely misunderstood. Okay, so the first way of presenting numbers in a way that people remember them is by presenting numbers in a way that people know. One of the concepts that is presented in this book, which you can find in the link below, I'm not going to throw it like I did last week for those of you who missed last week's episode. So one of the ways to present numbers in a way that other people know is by a technique called grounding. Let me give you an example of grounding. The health organization recommends that you have at least 3 to 4 ounces of meat per meal. Now, if you're like me, you have absolutely no idea what the heck does 3 to 4 ounces look like. But the example they give in the book is that the World Health Organization recommends that you eat 3 to 4 ounces of meat, which can be considered to look like a deck of cards. 3 to 4 ounces, that's roughly the same size as a deck of cards. How many times can I say deck of cards? No, just joking with you. Another example of grounding is that a hummingbird eats anywhere between 3 to 7 calories a day, but they have a metabolism that is 50 times faster than humans. Now, at face value, this doesn't really mean anything to us. It's like, cool, hummingbirds are small and pretty and can be seen here, and they have a really fast metabolism. So what? Well, if you were to scale up a hummingbird to human size and they were to eat 3 to 7 calories and a 50 times faster metabolism, that would be the equivalent of a human being drinking 67 Coca-Colas every single hour for 16 hours. Do you see how that's grounding? It goes, okay, hummingbirds, they have a fast metabolism, but now you can recognize, whoa, we understand the human scale. So when it's numbers that we understand, we get, okay, I know what a deck of cards looks like, and I know what it would mean to drink 67 Coca-Colas an hour. You would die. So that's the first way you present numbers so that people remember them. You present them in a way that they are understandable given the grounding technique of our own context. The second way that you present numbers in a way that people remember them is by presenting numbers that people can understand. So for example, time. We all have a relative understanding of how long a minute or 30 minutes or an hour or a day or a month or a year or a decades are a little bit harder, but you know what I mean? We all have a concept of time. So let's say you're trying to express to a group of students or your friends the difference between a million and a billion. It's like, oh, well, it's a lot larger. What is the difference between a million and a billion? Well, what you can do is you can present it in regards to time. If I were to ask you, how long is a million seconds? You would say, this is a brief interruption from Daniel from the future. I hate doing these pitches, but the thing about these pitches is it helps with the algorithm machine. It really does mean the world to me when you engage with this content because it makes it so that I am more motivated to make more content. So if you haven't already, again, please leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. Back to Daniel yapping about numbers. You were close. It's actually around 12 days. But if I were to ask you how long is a billion seconds, you would say, put it in the comments below. If you guessed 32 years, you'd be correct. So the way that you present numbers so that people can remember them is you give them something that they can understand. And in the example I gave, that would be time. The third way that you present numbers in a way that people never forget them is that you present numbers that feel, numbers that you can feel. And one of the ways that they present this in the book is by using the self as an example. So let me read you an excerpt from the book. So again, this is numbers that you feel, and this is the initial statement. Jeff Bezos is worth $198 billion. Again, we have absolutely no concept of $1 billion. But the way that Chip and Karla present it is, imagine yourself walking up a flight of stairs, and this is what they read. Let's imagine if each step of a staircase represents $100,000 in the bank. Most people, including 1 in 2 Americans and 89% of the world, can't even step onto the first step of the staircase because they have less. After 4 steps, we've lost over 75% of Americans. Fewer than 1 in 10 people will ever reach the 10th step, $1 million. Again, to the point that we last spoke on. Now put on your most comfortable hiking shoes. You'd have to climb for almost 3 hours before reaching the net worth of a billionaire. Mind you, 3 hours of climbing up these staircases, and every single one of them represents $100,000. After spending 9 hours a day, watch this, climbing steps for 2 months, you'd have Iron Man level quads as you finally reach the wealth of Jeff Bezos. What we did in this example is we presented what it would look like for you to walk up a set of stairs, and we all know that feeling. What we're doing is we're anchoring the emotional experience, the physical activity of recognizing how much Jeff Bezos has by stepping up a flight of stairs. You can imagine it, step after step after step, approaching wealth none of us will ever even be able to conceive of, let alone achieve. Let them alone. So that's the third way to present numbers that people will never forget. So the fourth and final way that you can present numbers in a way that people will never forget them is by showing numbers that you can see. This is a picture of a subway map. What it does is it helps orient you between where you've been and where you are going. Oftentimes we present numbers that are arbitrary. So let's say, for example, you have a heart rate of 90 beats per minute. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, 90 beats per minute is fine, I guess. Is that normal? Is that unhealthy? Is that healthy? But what if I were to tell you the average heart rate was 60 beats per minute, which I actually don't know what the average heart rate is. The average heart rate is right here. But again, without the prior knowledge of knowing this average heart rate, you wouldn't understand where your 90 beats per minute, I keep saying freaking per minute. I've said per minute like 3 times. You understand that your 90 beats per minute is either high, it's low, or it's right where it needs to be. But you only know that by creating a sort of scale so that you can see that you're falling either in the middle of the scale, at the beginning of the scale, at the end of the scale, whatever. So that is the fourth and final way that you can present numbers in a way that people never forget them again. You can present numbers in a way that people know. That's through grounding, using the example of the hummingbird. You can present numbers that people understand. That's the example I used in regards to time, 1 million versus 1 billion. You can present numbers in a way that people feel. I use the example of you climbing a staircase and every staircase being $100,000 and Jeff Bezos being $198 billion, and it would take you months to climb up that. And fourth and finally, you can present numbers in a way that people never forget by presenting them in a way that people see them. You can see them by putting them on a scale, like I used in regards to heart rate as the example they gave in the book. To land this plane, you might be asking, Daniel, I thought this was a business review. Well, this book is the foundation of what it actually means to run a good business, because you can have all the numbers in the world, but if you don't have those numbers within the context that people can understand, your numbers are worthless. So I would recommend any business owner, anyone who's interested in teaching or communicating numbers in a way that people can remember them, pick up this book below. And I will see you next week for a book that I'm very much so looking forward to reviewing, and it has to do with billionaires. Anyways, thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you next week.